Hi, everybody.
Hello there.
Jerry.
And Linda.
It's Gizmo back there. We're the Village's Newcomers. Today we have a topic of extreme importance for you. Hurricanes.
Yes.
We're in Florida. Florida is known for tropical storms. We get them every year. When do we generally get hurricanes?
We get them from June 1st to November 30th. And there have been some big ones. The latest one was 2017, Michael, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, last year there was one called Dorian.
Yes.
We bugged out. We chickened out. We got the place completely ready, but we left. And we gave you a couple shows on that, and I think you may have tuned in and watched those. We appreciate it. But today we're going to do more of a, not a prevention show, but a preparation show where you can learn from some seasoned veterans, not us,
No.
what to do in case you have a hurricane bearing down on your location.
Right. Most of the hurricanes hit in the northwest, near the Panhandle.
That's right, Pensacola, Destin, Panama City up there. That is the #1 damaged region
Right.
by hurricanes. And that's a reason that a lot of people settle here in Central Florida. We heard it before we moved here, that people fearing hurricanes often come from the coasts and hunker down in Central Florida, the villages,
Right.
towns around the villages, until the storm passes.
Well, I don't have any idea of where they get the names for the hurricanes, but they're alternating, women, men, or female, male. But there are 6 different lists. They rotate them 6 years, and they don't use names start with Q or U, X, Y, and Z. But
What about that last hurricane? Isaias?
yeah.
I don't even know how to say it. Isaias?
Isaias, I don't know.
That was a
I
hard
wonder
one for
who
me.
makes up those lists, but there are 6 lists. And if there's one that's devastating, like Katrina, they don't use that. They retire the name of Katrina and don't use that ever again. So that's kind of interesting. And this all started back in 1954. So before that, they would just call them by the year of when the hurricane happened.
Above anything else, we think it's necessary to prepare in tropical storm season. We've been doing a little bit of that. We're not experts at it. We're bringing you in a couple of people that would not ever call themselves experts, but they've been through some tropical storms and they're going to share that experience with you. Now, we stocked up on lots of things last year, and they're going to mention a lot of the same things, but, you know, I'll tell you right now, you're going to find a boatload of Spam in that pantry. I likes me Spam.
Yes, we've been collecting lots of water through 2-liter bottles and gallons, milk and orange juice. I've been cleaning those out. But anyway, yeah, we've got a closet full of that kind of thing.
How to get ready for a hurricane. Obviously, we are not the experts. So today we're bringing in 2 folks, and I know they would not consider themselves experts, but they're definitely knowledgeable about what to do in case of a tropical storm or a hurricane. And we're going to welcome them, let them sit right where we are, and we're going to give them some questions that I think that you'll be interested to hear the answers. I'd like to welcome our guests, Tom and Nancy. They both live here in the neighborhood. These guys are the good Samaritans of Dunedin. If your golf cart gets stranded, this guy here will come and get you. If you need masks or somebody to sit with the elderly or run an errand, Nancy will be right on top of it. These guys are always ready to help, and they're helping us today, and we really appreciate that. Thanks for being here, guys.
You're welcome.
First, let's get with the background. How long have you lived in the villages?
We've actually bought our house and moved here permanently in 2016. Prior to that, we had a rental from 2013 to 16. We used to just come down vacation.
So you've lived here for 7 years, off and on, at least for the first 3 of them.
Right.
And so you've seen a lot of different weather seasons come and go. And we told the viewers that the hurricane season is what, Linda?
July 1st. Oh, no, June
June
1st
1st.
to November 30th. 30th. Right.
So you've seen a lot of hurricane seasons, and we want to ask you some questions about those. But you didn't get your first hurricane experience here in Florida, did you?
No.
You're from up north. You want to tell a little bit about where you come from?
Yeah, between Nancy spent about 30 years, I guess, in North Carolina, and I spent about 20 years in North Carolina along the coast. We lived about 20 miles north of Wilmington, which is Cape Fear, well-deserved reputation
Hurricane
for
Central.
hurricanes. It seems like every hurricane that comes up the eastern seaboard manages to get darn close to where we were.
Yeah.
Off topic, but that movie Cape Fear with Robert De Niro, oh my God, that
Did
is
we
a
watch it?
scary
I don't think
movie,
I've
let me
seen
tell you.
that.
So you've seen hurricanes up in North Carolina as well as Florida.
Yeah.
I know that here people talk about some of the tunnels were shut down because of the rain accumulated. It was quite deep, and some of the golf courses were shut down for an extended period. Can you tell us what happened during those times?
Yeah, a lot of people forget that sewers and water pumps all require electricity. And considering that where we live, we're only how many feet above sea level here, and Lake Deaton is only about a mile away. There's only so many places for the water to go. The villages did a great job of trying to prepare and watering the courses and getting the water out of the retention ponds as much as they could. But the year that Irma came through, we had gotten a lot of rain. So as much pumping as they did, we still had plenty backed up water. And so the low spots are the tunnels. And folks don't think about that, but they came cruising through tunnels and were stranded in the middle of them and, got themselves in messes.
They even have videos of people pushing their golf carts through the tunnel because the water was like that deep, but they decided they still had to go through it.
Some of the golf courses were closed. Was it maybe for weeks or a month or more than a month? Do you remember?
I believe, as I recall, it was for more than a month by far, sometimes 2 months, I think. And just about all of them were closed. There were very few that were open. It was just so soggy, and of course they were using them as a place to get rid of the water. There were a lot of complaints here, but given the options, I think that was a pretty good. I'll put up with lack of golfing for a month or two.
Last year about this time, I remember Mangrove Golf Course over off Hendry. The water was up over the bridges, so they closed that course down for a time. And it wasn't hurricane, it was just rain season, where they used that system of ponds and lakes that we have here to hold extra water. Last week, Linda and I made a post on our Facebook page concerning a power outage, and we had power go out for 90 minutes here. Now, I know in your 7 years, you certainly must have had times when you had power outages. Do you remember any?
I think we had a total of one.
I don't remember any.
Maybe that.
I'm older.
Maybe not even. It might have been an accident that lightning struck something. Yeah. But it certainly wasn't during the hurricane, and we were very lucky that it was.
Yeah, that's a benefit to living in the villages. All the utilities are underground. Interruptions are very rare. And as we said earlier, before we started talking with you guys, people from all parts of Florida tend to flock to the center of the state during hurricane season because we seem to experience less interruption than they do in the coastal towns. And that's why Linda and I are here, because we actually really wanted a place on the beach, and we looked hard at condos up at Pensacola and Navarre and Destin, and we got scared in the end and came down here where we perceived it to be safer.
I think.
Yeah. Now, after a hurricane, you said we really haven't had any major ones come through here in the last 4 to 7 years. But after the big thunderstorms, after the big squalls that come through here, you'll see palm branches down. Mm-hmm. You'll see debris here and there. I've been impressed by how quick the villages cleans that up.
They're very good at that.
Because there's always
Right
some.
away.
And I've heard that if you run over one of those palm branches, you may be getting your tires fixed.
You get one of those 2-inch spikes.
Yeah, big spikes. Our viewers know that last year, our first hurricane, we got everything ready. We brought in the grill. We brought in our lawn chairs. We cleared the porch of all furniture. We moved flower pots inside. And then we decided to skip town. We got out of here. And we hardly had anything come through, which we're thankful about. Although we did, we did learn to make sure there are no lizards in your gas grill before you bring it in your house. We were swamped with that. But is there any advice? In a minute, I'm going to ask you to speak to stocking up food and whatnot. But for people that are going to leave during a hurricane, any advice that comes to mind in getting your house ready to leave?
Well, I would say your example is exactly what you should do. I think it's really important for people to treat it as if it's going to happen. Once the winds start blowing, it's very much unlike what more people are used to, which are tornadoes. They come, they go. A hurricane keeps blowing on and on and on.
For hours.
And once it hits, you do not have time. You can't go out in the wind to take things and put them away, and everything becomes a projectile. So I was much better to be safer than sorry. That would be my big thing. So before they go, the obvious things, put everything in. Turn off water, turn off electricity, or at least water heater, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. How strong are the winds in a hurricane?
After one of the ones that we went through in North Carolina, I was driving down the street and went by a car dealership, and the big lights they have with the big, huge poles. Poles were like that.
Uh-huh.
So, and in '93, I think it was, Hurricane Andrew went through Homestead area and wiped out Homestead Air Force Base. My son's birth records that were at that hospital. So, airplane hangars and hospitals. So that's really powerful.
Pretty amazing when you look out your window and you watch the row of pine trees that are about 50 feet tall across the street from you snap off like toothpicks, and we're not even in the high winds yet. That's kind of a sobering view.
Linda and I went to Cocoa Beach a few weeks ago, and I noticed that a lot of the homes there have the I don't know what they're made of, aluminum window guards that come down and lock to protect their windows
Hurricane
against breaking.
shutters. Yeah.
But we don't have that here. I don't know of anybody here that has that. So is that due to our location and being less subject to those super high winds?
I think it is. I've got a couple friends who have the fabric. As a matter of fact, the villa that we had fabric covers for it. The lady we bought it from had done that protection before we got here. But we would install them, and they turned out to never really be needed. It's kind of, you can call it overkill. Of course, it only takes one piece of anything flying through your windows, and then you'll be thankful that you did. However, since we're so far away from the coast, generally we'd like to think that the winds aren't that typically strong here.
Now, Tom is a retired Marine. He's a take charge kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that people in your neighborhood look to for advice and guidance during problems. And I know you guys have actually organized neighbors together before in advance of a hurricane. What kind of things do you tell people, or how do you guide them to prepare?
Well, I think prior to Irma, last year, I was a couple of years ago, I was kind of concerned because Irma was looking like it was going to split the state right down the middle, which is kind of a rarity to travel that far on land and still maintain its strength. So even I was concerned at that. And our neighbors, who were from all over the country, but many of them had never experienced a hurricane, you could tell they were really anxious about it and didn't know how to prepare. So my thing was, listen, let's get all the neighbors together, figure out what everybody had for repair things.
Assets,
yep, plywoods,
not
tarps, ropes, who was
Generators.
physically able to maybe get out in the wind to put a quick piece of plywood up without being blown away, those kinds of things. And we started talking about what the tips would be, how to freeze water, or how filling your bathtubs, what kinds of foods to get. And we just answered questions. But the result of that was, I think people's anxiety levels came down. They all felt a lot more comfortable knowing that, Tom had a generator. So if you have power goes out, come to his house with your frozen food.
Your coffee pot.
Your coffee pot if you need it. Somebody else had a couple of sheets of plywood. So if a window was blowing in, go to his house and that's where you'd find it. So we kind of took care of ourselves. And that's the nice part about the villages.
Yeah.
Nancy, what kind of foods did you stock up on? I told the viewers earlier that we have, a huge supply of Spam ready to go.
Yeah, as we know.
What would you go and shop for in advance of a hurricane?
I would get canned things like tuna, salmon, peanut butter, bread. Don't load up on milk because if your electricity goes out, it's going to spoil. If it's out, for a couple days. I don't know what else. Well, not snacks so much, but some people maybe.
Well, and you always kind of planned ahead of time of what we had in the freezer because that was going to be
Right.
the first foods you would prepare
Right.
before your freezers went.
So not only can you eat the foods that you bought that are not perishable, but if you lose your electricity and your only means of cooking is on a grill, you need to get sort of inventive. So some of our best meals actually were from the food that was in the refrigerator. We had biscuits, which I made in 2 tinfoil pans, one on top of the other, made like a little oven. Cook that on the grill. We had pancakes and bacon and anything that was going to spoil, because we were without electricity for 7 days, and not knowing how long we would be without it, we decided we should eat up the perishables first.
And that was in North Carolina?
That was in North Carolina, yeah. And
So it was an adventure.
yes, we made it as much
was
of
an
an adventure as we could. After the first day of, Tom will probably tell about the actual experience that we had. But the other thing that was really important was preserving what you already have. So the food in the freezer is going to stay cold longer if you open the door real fast and get out what you need and close it. You don't want to stand there and look in the refrigerator and see, I don't know what I'm hungry for, because you don't have that luxury. Your hot water heater is going to empty after that, 44 or 55 gallons is gone. That's the end of your hot showers. So learn to take a wet, suds, rinse, shower, quick, on and off. And also no electricity, so you might want to take your showers during the day before it's pitch dark. Otherwise, you'll be carrying around we had candles back then, because that was, I don't know, what year was that, 2000, something like that. So now they have those wonderful battery operated candles, which are great because they give out a lot of light. You could actually read with those and take those in the bath. You can have them in every room in the house and not be afraid of a fire. The other thing was collecting water, the bathtub, so that you'll have water to empty the toilet, because if you don't have electricity, it's not going to refill. So,
well, I know all the old timers know this, but you can get a pitcher of water, pour it into your toilet, and it'll flush.
Right. That's why you fill your bathtub, and so you can do that. And also use that for bathing. If you don't have water, because we never were without water, thank the Lord, but we were without electricity. And another tip that I picked up when we were here, coupled with Irma, was to save water in your freezer in Ziploc bags. And I'd never done that before, but it's great because it serves two purposes. One, you have backup water if you need it, and it's clean out of your faucet. All you have to do is thaw it out, and it helps keep your freezer cold. And when everything's over with, you can thaw it out and reuse your Ziploc bags. So you don't have 10 gallons of water sitting around in jugs until you might might need it 5 years from now.
One thing I thought of, and I don't know if anybody's done this, but Here, everybody pitches in. You've noticed we needed a car seat last week for grandkids. Boom, we had somebody loan us one.
Right.
So I'll bet that somebody with an extra garage bay, maybe they have one car, one golf cart, and they have a 2.5 car, would have a place to store community water in case of a hurricane. You could, put because it's hard. We're out of space here at this
That's
house.
a great idea.
To store water. We don't have any more room for water. We've got 2-liter bottles filled up on top of each other, and the shelves in our pantry are about to go. But that would be something to think about, I think. Although the power doesn't go off here frequently, the last time we made sure we had batteries. We bought some of those lanterns to place around the house.
Right.
We filled up the car with gasoline.
Yep.
We do have a power converter in that car that you can plug an appliance into.
That's great. Yeah.
So those kinds of things. Yeah, the gas pumps would not be operable, would they, if the power went out in an area? So you couldn't possibly get gas or get gas.
ATM machines wouldn't work. Nope. Charging your phones, you'd have to go to your car or use your inverter if you have one.
If you're used to air conditioning in Florida in the middle of summer, it can get mighty miserable.
And you can't plug in your fan.
We had been toying with the idea. In fact, we did even get a bid on it for a whole house generator. But after I looked, this was more than a year ago, and after I looked around our neighborhood and other neighborhoods, you might find one, but you're not going to find many.
Yeah.
People here just don't tend to have them. But I feel like that AC is going to be needed in an elderly area, with a lot of elderly population, because it could be a killer. Sure. I mean, it gets hot and muggy here. It gets hot and muggy in Indiana too, and I know it does in North Carolina and lots of places.
Right.
So at the wrong time, it could be bad anywhere. But here, an extended time without electricity would be a real hardship on old folks.
I think it was, it's immediately after the hurricane is when that low pressure is still hanging around, and it's so humid and so thick. And of course, that's when you're going to be outside picking up all the down branches, cleaning up the house, repairing things that are busted. And when there's no AC to come back and cool off to, it can be really a handful. I remember that quite well. For day after day of working, and we were cutting trees out of houses, and we don't have to worry about that down here. But that really put some stress on a person. So, yeah.
He spent the whole day. We had a tree go through our house, front to back, just karate chopped right through our bedroom. And picture it now. It goes right through your ceiling, and down comes all the wood, the insulation, everything that's in your attic. Well, we didn't have things stored there.
Beautiful red oak tree.
Yeah,
in our master bath.
And it was Family Robinson. We had the skylight. We could see the rain, and rain was pouring in.
Wow, and that was in North Carolina.
Yes, but the next day, when he and 6 or 7 Marine friends were cutting the tree out of our house, the girls and the kids were cleaning up insulation all over the house. And we didn't have a vacuum cleaner. So there were a lot of brooms and dustpans. And, you have to get really inventive on, I can't use my usual tools. What am I going to use? So, yeah.
Thank goodness here. Power's underground, and seems like, that is a big, big blessing. And the developer was very wise in the way he built this community. Irma came through with some pretty strong winds. People outside the villages lost power because they had overhead lines, but I don't know of anybody who actually lost their power in the villages. So we're kind of blessed with that.
Let's knock on some wood here.
Yeah, I think we're also blessed in where we live here. I personally don't really get too afraid of hurricanes here because we're just not really in a hurricane area. We're not on the coast. Some of these storms that have come through in the last few weeks are just as bad as some of the hurricanes we've been through.
That's very true.
So, they come up quickly.
You guys are wonderful neighbors, and we really appreciate you coming here and sharing this with us. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we sign off today?
I can only say that I'm very happy to live in the villages because of the neighbors who take care of each other. prior to Irma, when we had our little meetings, and after in the cleanup, a little bit of cleanup we had, everybody worked together so well, and it was really neat to see and fun to be around folks who cared. I would warn folks that when you do hear about hurricanes coming, always better to over-prepare than to under-prepare. You can always put things back the way you had, but it's really tough when you have to pull them out of your screen doors, or you have to repair your doors to begin with. So I would always lean to the conservative side and be well prepared no matter what.
We sure do appreciate Nancy and Tom being here with us today and telling us all about their experiences with tropical storms and hurricanes and their advice for us.
Good folks with some good information, and much appreciated. Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, villagesnewcomers@gmail.com, or you can go snail mail to Post Office Box 888, Fruitland Park, Florida, 34731, and we'll get back to you. Until next time.
See you when you get here.